Good morning. My name is Sean Story. Behind the camera, we have Arturo Velasquez. Today is March 6th, and I am here to present our Veterans Q&A for the David J Flores Veterans Center in Santa Rosa High School. Today, we have our guest, Mr. Willie Griego. How's it going, sir?
How you doing? Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Can you tell us a little about yourself, like where you're from, what rank you served in, around the time you served, and if you served in any conflicts?
Okay. My name, like you said, people know me now pretty much, my friends and some of my family is Willie Griego, but you know, everybody, a lot of people around here from Santa Rosa knows me as Bill Griego or Guillermo as I grew up. So I was born and raised here in Santa Rosa. So I stayed here till I was 10 years old. And then with my parents, when my mom got married to my stepdad, we moved to Albuquerque. And then from Albuquerque, that's where I finished off my schooling, went through junior high and high school. And then that's when I joined the service after high school. But during that time when I was in Albuquerque, I came back here to Santa Rosa regularly during the summertime to help my grandparents at the restaurant and stuff like that. So, I mean, I have a long history of my hometown here in Santa Rosa. Had a lot of family here. They're pretty much living in Albuquerque or somewhere else within the state right now.
Can you tell us about a little bit about the time period you served in?
Okay. When I graduated high school, I joined the Army in 1976 under the delayed entry program. And then when I graduated from high school, I joined the United States Army in 1977, where I went to basic training at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and also completed my AIT there at Fort Dix, New Jersey. I enlisted for a 4-year period in the United States Army. When I finished my training, I was sent to Fort Richardson, Alaska, where I was stationed with the Combat Engineer unit there. I was there for almost 3 years. What we did as combat engineers is that we were responsible for clearing runways, building ice bridges in Alaska, because during our training was pretty much during the winter time when it was below freezing, and we worked with the infantry units clearing paths and ways for them to get to certain areas and stuff like that.
How did your family feel about you joining the military?
Just coming out of high school, my mom and dad, I mean, they were pretty proud. I mean, they were kind of like scared because I was going into the military. I mean, there wasn't any conflicts during that time, but just the fact that I was leaving home, going into the military, being at a young age, they were nervous, but they were proud of the choice that I made to go into the military.
What schooling did you receive before you joined the military?
The only schooling I had before the military was high school. You know, I graduated high school and I went straight into the Army.
Mind me asking which high school you went to in Albuquerque?
Yeah, I graduated from Sandia High School.
Did you hold any jobs before you served?
Yes, actually during high school, I worked a little bit at a gas station, pumping gas and little minor small auto repairs. I worked at a Mr. Swiss, which is a little sandwich ice cream shop they used to have back in the day, close to where I lived, where you know, I would just make sandwiches, serve ice cream and stuff like that. After when I was done with school, I would go work part-time at these places.
What was your military occupation specialty while in the military?
Okay, like I said, when I first went in the military, it was under the Combat Engineers, which is the 12 series or the 63 series, where I was stationed at. So that's what I did pretty much for the 3 years in Alaska. Then my last year, I was sent to Fort Hood, Texas, where I worked with the 1st Cav Division. With the 1st Cav Division, I was assigned to a field artillery unit, which are the tanks, where they had like the M60 tanks, and at that time they were coming in with the new M1 tanks and stuff like that.
Who or what did you leave behind when you entered the service?
When I entered the service, pretty much what I left behind were my friends, my parents, but I still remain pretty much in contact with them. I was able to give them a call just to check on them, you know, every week or at least once a month.
What is your favorite memory of your time in training?
My favorite memory probably when I first went into the United States Army, just It was just the fact that coming from a small town, even going to Albuquerque, I've never been outside New Mexico and never really faced any type of other challenges. I enjoyed the challenges that the Army gave me, not only under the physical, like physical fitness, PT, which is physical training, using your mind, the skill sets that you develop there, learning how to utilize weapons and other types of equipment related to the Army.
Do you have any particular drill instructors that stand out in your mind? If so, why?
What was that again? I'm sorry.
Do you have any drill instructors that stand out in your mind? If so, why?
Oh yeah. Actually, I remember all my drill instructors: Drill Sergeant Smith, Drill Sergeant Moreno, and Drill Sergeant Espianzo. To this day, I can still remember getting off that cattle truck over there at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and them yelling at us, getting into formation, and the whole time I was there. So, yeah, I remember them very well.
What was your first assignment after basic training?
Okay, after basic training in AIT, like I said, I was stationed up there at Fort Richardson, Alaska, and I was assigned to that combat engineer unit there.
Okay. Did you qualify with any equipment such as vehicles, guns, or radios?
Yes, throughout my whole military career, I've qualified. Initially, we had the M16. Back then, we had the M16 machine gun. They had the Beretta 9mm pistol. That's what I qualified back with then. I had the opportunity to. And throughout my whole military career, I've had different entities where I was stationed. I was in an air defense unit. I was with the military police. I went with an infantry unit. I've been with different brigades or battalions, but not only with the M16, again, the M9 Beretta, the M249, which is an individual squad weapon like a machine gun, the M2, which is the 50 caliber, they call it machine gun. I've qualified with the Stinger missile when I was in air defense. It's a handheld missile here for shooting down planes and stuff like that. Different types of radio sets. So pretty much wherever I was assigned, I qualified with equipment that was related to my unit.
Did you receive any promotions?
Yes. So a little bit going back to my military career. So once I got out of the Army after my 4 years, I joined the Army Reserves. I had like a 2-year obligation that I had to finish up, because back then you had a 6-year obligation. So I went with the Army Reserves, and when I completed my obligation, I was fortunate enough to get contacted by somebody, and that's when I joined the New Mexico Army National Guard. And through my whole career as a traditional soldier, a weekend soldier, and then when I retired from my civilian job as an Albuquerque police officer, I was able to go back in full time with the Army under the New Mexico Army National Guard. And I just retired back here in May of 2019. And my promotions all the way from when I went in as a private PV1 till I retired as a Command Sergeant Major, which is an E9.
What was the hardest part of military life to adjust to? Why do you think it was like that?
Probably the hardest time initially was moving away from home, being away from your friends and family. But when you're in the military, you build a camaraderie with your fellow soldiers, whether it be male or female, and then the skill sets that you develop, working every day side by side with them. It kind of takes you away from like the memories of being away, missing back home and stuff like that. But again, just working alongside, we call them battle buddies, was probably the biggest influence for me to stay in the military this long, and also working my civilian job as a police officer. The military is very instrumental in, I think, able for me to get that job when I got out of the military the first time.
How did your time in the service change you?
From coming out of high school, not knowing direction where I was going, it instilled a lot of discipline in me. It made me mature real fast, and it made me learn to develop my goals a lot better and manage myself a lot better being in the military with all the skill sets that we learn as you go up throughout the years.
What kind of friendships or camaraderies did you form in the service and with whom?
I developed a lot of friendship with my fellow soldiers, and not only the fellow soldiers, their families, friends here back home that I've known even when I left or I come back, my peers, my supervisors, people above me. So throughout my whole military career, I think that was instrumental in me getting me where I got when I retired, was developing those friendships, but not only just friendships, but the professional area that I worked in and being professionals, I think helped me with their mentorship, and I think I was able to at least give something back and help them with their being a mentor for them and getting them where they needed to go while they were in the service.
How did you stay in touch with your family?
Back then, pretty much by telephone or mailing letters back and forth to my family. And then when the technology kind of spun up and you had your cell phones or pagers and stuff like that, I was able to contact pretty much that way.
Do you recall the day your service ended? Where were you when it did?
Yeah, I recall it. Like I said, that was on April 30th, 2019. I was still full-time with the Army National Guard, so I was a commandant there at the training school. So it was pretty much just my last day, getting my stuff and then leaving. But I still have good relationships to this day with the New Mexico Army National Guard. So it's not like I left there, but I still stay in contact with a lot of my friends and comrades and stuff that I worked with.
Did you return home, and if not, where did you go?
I'm sorry?
Did you return home, and if not, where did you go?
Yeah, well, the first time when I went on active duty for the 4 years when I returned home, I was planning on trying to stay to make military career, but I wanted to be a helicopter pilot, but I guess I just didn't have the right push, the right people to get me where I wanted to go. So I got out, and when I returned home, I worked a couple of small jobs at a gas station, trying to decide what I wanted to do, and that's when I was applying for different things like the post office, police departments. I applied for the Albuquerque Police Department. They called me, and they wanted to interview me, so I went through the interview process. I was selected, so I went to the police academy, was able to successfully complete that, and spent almost 20 years before I retired in law enforcement, serving the public.
What type of discharge did you receive?
An honorable discharge.
What was the hardest part about returning to civilian life?
It's hard to say. It's been a long time because when I got out initially and I went to work with the Albuquerque Police Department, I stayed with the military, either with the reserves or the Army National Guard. So I was pretty much always still in the military. The only difference was I had my civilian life with my civilian job. And then once I finished my civilian job, I went back full-time with the Army National Guard. So I still continued serving, working military training operations, stuff like that. So when I got out in 2019, probably the hardest thing is that, like I said, in the military, you develop a skill set. So, the discipline, the morale, the maturity and stuff like that. In the civilian side, what I'm finding out is that sometimes the skill set or the maturity or the professionalism is not always there, but if anything, it's probably just the camaraderie and the friendships that I dealt, and also the family that was really supportive while I was gone.
Have you used your GI Bill to receive a college education?
Okay, I was late in the game, so initially I had planned to go to college a long time ago, and I had the GI Bill. They call it the Montgomery GI Bill, but I never used it. So when I was deployed to Iraq and when I came back, I was eligible for the post 9/11. So just recently, before Mr. Flores, David Flores, passed away when he was the director here, I went back to college and I was able to finish and get my degree in business administration and management.
Um, do you think it should be mandatory that every male and or female should serve in the U.S. military in any sort of capacity?
No, I don't think it should be mandatory. I think that's a self, you know, decision that someone should make. You know, back in 1972, that's when they went to the all-volunteer military. Before that, they had the draft, you know, where people didn't have a choice and were drafted into the service. You know, a lot of them did volunteer even back then, but no, I think that's a self-choice. I can just tell you from my experience, the military, I was fortunate, it made me what I am today. I had a great career in the military, law enforcement, still in the military. So if I would say to anybody is that, you know, if you have a plan and know what you're going forward, especially like you coming out of school, you know, transitioning this and that here, I can honestly say military was good for me. It's not for everybody. There's only like a little over 1% that serve in our armed forces here in the world today. So that's not a lot of big percentage, but it's a good career. If you want to learn discipline, skill set, and a way forward, maybe you don't have to stay with it, but it develops you in a way where I think it makes it easier to live out and work in the civilian world.
How has your time in the service changed your thoughts about war and the military in general?
Like I said, most of my career in the military, I was in during some like Desert Storm and stuff like that, the conflicts with which we were deployed. But so I was deployed to war. So I was mobilized in Iraq, you know, for a whole year. So going to war, I mean, it's not something everybody wants to do, but it's something to do when you raise your hand to serve your country, and, you know, and uphold the Constitution. Is that you do what you're told to do, and you go where you're set to go. But what war instilled in me was that it's more of a better skill set, discipline. You learn leadership, and it's just one of those things where you don't want to be there, but I was in positions of a leader. So every day I had to lead a company, my platoon, about 30 or more people, where every day we went out and did convoy escort missions in southern Iraq, where we were gun trucks guarding 20 to 30 semi-trailers. Imagine 20 to 30 semi-trailers on a road with 3 gun trucks, one in the front, one in the rear, and the one that was roving. So, you know, the stress that's put on my soldiers and even myself, because you always want to make sure that you complete the missions and you want everybody to come back home. So I think the biggest thing for me in war was I was in charge of over 30 people, and I wanted to get all 30 people back home. And we succeeded in that, getting everybody back home.
How do you feel about retiring as a sergeant major in the United States Army?
I feel honored. I mean, to get to where I got to become a command sergeant major and retire as a sergeant major. But I can tell you, the success from my career was the soldiers that worked under me that I had to lead and stuff like that. Because my thought was, as a leader, was that it's not always about Willie. Okay, I'm just there to supervise and guide them and mentor them, but they're the ones that do the work and do the great things, you know, whatever they're told to do, this and that, whether it be in war or peacetime. So I think my success is because of you young people. I understand you're going into the service.
Yes,
I appreciate that. I mean, I think you'll enjoy it, take full advantage of what they have to offer, but my success was for the soldiers under me that got me where I needed to go, because it was my job to lead them, not to take care of myself. So
what message would you like to leave for future generations who will view or hear this interview?
I guess the message I would like to leave to future generations is that, you know, if you do the right thing in life, the outcome will always be great. It'll always be right. You know, you have choices what you want to do, like when you're getting out of school and this and that. You know, you can go in the military, it's all volunteer, or you can pick another career. It's just whatever you decide to do, instill that discipline yourself to do it right. Make sure you do what you love. You know, if you get a family, take care of your family, take care of your friends, learn from your friends, get good mentors. And I think if you just kind of do those little bit of things there, you'll have a successful life. So that's what I would say to the younger generation.
Is there anything you would like to add that we didn't cover in today's interview?
The only thing was related to that last question is that, look, when you make your choices in life, especially coming out of school, is that take a look at the big picture. I mean, today's world, you see certain things that's so negative, and I got it because cultures change. Because in my culture, it wasn't about Willie. It's that old saying that John F. Kennedy used to say, is that it's not what the country can do for you, it's what you do for the country. So if you just go in that mindset, it's like it's not about me, like what's in it for me. And if you do that little selfishness that I call it is like that, is that when you do something, yeah, you want to do good for yourself, but anything that you do, you want to make sure that you do good for everybody else, because you can't do it by yourself. It's a team concept. So unless you have a team concept like playing sports, one person can't really always win the game. You got to have a team behind them. That's when you start winning.
That's all for today. Looks like we're done with the interview. I'd just like to say thank you for
no.
your service.
Hey, well, thank you and appreciate you, and good luck to you. And
Thank you.
if you ever need any advice or something, come to the Veterans Center. We're always available.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.